Welcome back. This is Cleaning Up the Mess on CNC3, the first of a 13-part multimedia series. My guest is Dr. Rudral Munilal, the Minister of Housing and the Environment. Thank you so much for being here with us. Dr. Munilal, you have said that, and I quote, we plan to look at air pollution rules and those that govern air quality. We talked about this a little bit earlier, and you must be aware that Trinidad and Tobago is one of the top 10 producers of CO2 gas that is responsible for global warming per capita, and also a big emitter of sulfur dioxide. How will your new rules go down with the energy sector?
Well, these rules, my understanding is that they have done a lot of work on it, not just the legal people, but in terms of consultations and so on. And while there are some problems, as there always will be with regulatory frameworks and so on, seldom every side of an industry agree on regulations. We intend to implement those rules, and we intend to mandate the business community and through the TTMA and the chambers of commerce and so on. We intend to speak to them and build a sort of partnership where following the rules will be something that you do out of your own need, understanding your responsibility. This is why we are also developing that focus on social and corporate responsibility. I think that's a very important area for development in this country, to build within the business community this concern for their social responsibility, but also their corporate responsibility to the environment and to all citizens. Because if you pollute not only for your employees, so to speak, but you also pollute for the community, for the village, for the environment. And that is something we intend to take to the business community with a much more aggressive program. It's something we'll deal with.
Okay. You've also said that you intend to implement the existing legislation. We spoke about this earlier, and I'm particularly interested in the act as it relates to littering. And how do you strengthen that to ensure that the penalties are strong enough to stop people from littering in the way that we've seen?
Well, clearly you need to look at the penalties. I mean, regrettably, it is a society that needs enforcement culture. I always tell people, the same person in Trinidad who will cross the street, in a reckless manner, when they take a flight and take 3 hours to get to Miami, I think, they will not do it there. So it is not the individual. The individual is not intrinsically predisposed to lawlessness. It is the environment of enforcement, because you believe that the environment for enforcement is strict in one locality, so you follow the law. But it is weak, so you don't in another. You need to get the penalties up. We need to monitor and police the society in a much more stringent way. But on the other hand, we also need to provide facilities. You tell someone, don't litter, but you don't provide the facilities to collect the waste, for example. You don't provide facilities for citizens around the capital, the villages, the towns, the community. So you have to provide facilities as well to ensure that persons have they have their waste, they can dispose properly, quickly, in a timely manner. Nobody wants to be keeping a set of bottles and paper and plastics in their car, for a long period of time. So that you also have to look at the provision of a lot of facilities as well. I think that is also important. I remember years ago being in Europe and studying, living there. And even at that time, more than 10 years ago, they had so much facilities so that you really had to be almost criminal to litter. And so I think we need to look at that as well.
And that's where we're heading, presumably, which brings us to recycling. It's a costly exercise, and you may have to even subsidize it.
Yes, well.
Tell us where you're going there.
Okay, I've already met several groups of businessmen and members of the investor community with an interest in this. You're right, clearly. There is a high capital injection that is required, almost like energy products, for example. There's a limit as to how much a state, the government, can use public funds for that. It requires sitting down and having discussion on an investment framework, because they need incentives. So you have to provide incentives. However, one has to acknowledge that really no cost is too high enough for preserving the environment, because you cannot see it as a cost if you are preserving the environment, if you are reducing your carbon emissions, for example, you are really saving your society, your planet, preserving the environment for the next generation. And I don't think we can put a cost on that, so that I think that eventually we will have to give the required incentives that business community require.
And I want a quick 30-second answer to this. Do you believe in open government and providing information to the people? Will we know what you're doing as you go along?
Well, once I know what I'm doing,
I hope you do.
I'm quite prepared to share what I'm doing. We are committed to transparency and to accountability. I think those are the pillars upon which we enter the government, and we will remain committed to those values. And whether it is in the environment, it is in housing, we are open, and we intend to use the parliament as a medium to demonstrate that commitment to the highest, standards of good governance.
Thank you very much for joining us today, Dr.
My
Munilal.
pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
And that's where we wrap up today's segment of Cleaning Up the Mess. I want to thank Dr. Munilal for joining us. We hope that he comes back. Join us again next Sunday on CNC3 at the same time, when we speak with the Energy Affairs Minister, Carolyn Sipasad Bechan, and Thackeray Driver, the CEO of the Energy Chamber of Trinidad and Tobago. We'll ask them, can a disaster like a BP oil spill happen here? Also read Thursday's Guardian with our expert guest columnists, and look out for our 1-minute tips on saving the environment. Until then, I'm Ira Mathur, urging you to keep Trinidad and Tobago clean and green. Remember to send in your comments, photographs, both good and damning, as well as your suggestions to cleaning up the mess at guardian.co.tt. Have a great Sunday.